Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper and independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! I have a different kind of card for you tonight. This isn't a really involved technique. This is something that was generated from a challenge that I issued over on my Facebook page. So what I did was I have this set of wooden dice that I rolled, and that gave me 5 different elements that I needed to incorporate into a card. So my card had to be a slimline design using in colors. It had to use die cuts and sponging, and then had to be thank you in theme. So I took these 5 elements and combined them into a card, and I'm going to share a quick little ink technique while I show you how I created this card. So this is my slimline card that I created, and the little ink technique that I wanted to share with you is how to apply color to a red rubber cling stamp using Sponge Daubers. And I have the perfect stamp to show you with this beautiful stamp from the Amazing Silhouettes stamp set that we have. This is actually perfect. Any of these images would have been perfect, but this long tree image was perfect for this technique. So I'm going to quickly show you how to do that. Now for a slimline card, your sizing might be different. Slimline can be slightly different measurements, but what I did was I happened to stumble across this stack of envelopes right before I rolled those dice for a slimline card and thought, oh, I have to come up with something to use these for, so this was the perfect envelope. So I just created my slimline card to fit in this envelope. So my cardstock is 8.5 inches tall by 7 inches wide, and then I scored it down the middle at 3.5, and that created my card base. So this is Starry Sky. This is one of our new in colors. So that was where I tied in the in color to the slimline card. And now I'm going to show you that ink technique and how I created the front of the card. So my front panel is 3.25 by 8.25, simply taking a 1/4 inch off my measurements for my card base. And I have my red rubber cling stamp here. I will tell you, this technique does not work with photopolymer. I think it's what the stamp is made of. Photopolymers tend not to have as much surface area, whereas I've got lots of nice area to put ink on with the red rubber cling stamp. So that is why this technique works here. And I'm just going to bring over some different colors of ink. I recommend starting with your lightest color first. That way, as you add color, you're not taking a ink off the stamp and then transferring it to your light colored ink pad. If you start with light and then go darker, it doesn't hurt anything. So I have Sweet Sorbet, and I'm just going to tap my little fingertip sponge dauber, which I like to label with colors just so I know the difference. And I'm just going to tap it in my ink and then tap some around the stamped image. I don't want it all over. I don't want it to have a uniform look. So I am simply going to add color here and there. And if I were to do this 20 times, I would have 20 different looks as I went through. So I'm not going to go very heavy with the Sweet Sorbet, just a little bit. And then I'm going to change colors and bring over Orchid Oasis. And then I'm just going to continue to add color. And it is okay if I cover up some of that Sweet Sorbet, but I don't want to cover the whole thing and really take away that beautiful pinky red. So I'm just going to keep adding some color. You don't want to go too heavy, but you do want to make sure that you have your complete image covered while you are doing this. So I think that's good. And then I'm going to do one more color. So I'm going to switch over to Starry Sky, and this will be my final color. This is the darkest. And I'm just going to hit all those areas where I think I need a little more coverage on the stamp. And then this will be ready to be placed on my paper. So you can do this with any red rubber cling stamp that you think it will work with. Words, flowers, balloons, things like that. And let's see, I'm pretty sure, it looks pretty good to me that I got all that covered. Now, one trick that I like to do, especially if it's taken me a while to put ink on the stamp, and this one's okay, I can really tell there's still ink and it's still moist, but I like to huff on it, just breathe a little hot air. So pardon me while I do that for a moment. And that just makes sure the ink is wet enough to transfer to your paper. And so I am going to give this just a nice press and kind of make sure that I get all of the image down on the paper. I'm not really rocking it back and forth. I'm just making sure everything is touching the paper here. And then there is our stamped panel. I did kind of cover up more sweet sorbet than I thought, but you can kind of see my little red peeking through there. And I'll show you after we put this card together how it looks different every time you stamp it. So there is my card panel. While I have my ink out, what I'm going to do is quickly stamp my envelope with that same image. I think what I'm going to do is just grab my Orchid Oasis, ink up my stamp, and then there we go. Stamp there on the corner of my envelope and quickly close up my ink pads. I will say the one risk I run while I work with Sponge Daubers is I end up with ink on my hands, which hopefully won't transfer to my project. So now that this is done, my envelope can go to the side, and I'm going to put together the card panel before I glue it on the card front. I just want to add a few things before I secure it. So first up, I have 2 strips of Designer Series paper. I figured out what colors I wanted to use and then pulled it all together. So these are from our new In Color Designer Series paper pack. It has 4 different prints in each of the 5 new In Colors, so you have a lot to play with. I chose this plaid, and it's Sweet Sorbet. And these strips are 1/2 inch tall and 3 1/4 inches wide, so they're going to fit perfectly across my card front. And I'm just going to add my adhesive. You do not need fancy adhesive. Whatever your adhesive of preference is perfect for this card. And I'm going to put one near the top. I am going to leave a little space above because I'm going to add some ribbon in a moment. And then one to the bottom as well. Now, I wasn't very careful, so I'm going to take a second and tuck some of the adhesive behind just to make sure it's not sticking out on my card front. It's one of the beautiful things about our adhesive, particularly our Stamp & Seal Plus, because it's segmented and it will tuck behind your projects very nicely. So if you get a little glue hanging off the edge, just go ahead and fold it back there. Okay, so there is my strip added to the top and the bottom. And next up, I'm going to add some ribbon. So I have some of our metallic woven ribbon. This is in Orchid Oasis. This is 1/8 inch wide. You get 10 yards on the spool, so there's plenty here to play with. One of the things I love the most about this ribbon is you can fray the ends for one of your projects if you want and really pull it apart. So you have some possibilities with your ribbon as well. Now what I'm going to do for this project, I'm not going to fray it. I'm simply going to cut 3 lengths a little bit wider than my card front because I'm just going to add these as little accents across the card front. Now I'm going to tell you a little secret. I like to cheat with my ribbon. I like to secure it to my card front using some Scotch tape. Some consultants would be horrified. They're all about the glue and the adhesive runners, and I just like to make sure my ribbon is not going anywhere, particularly when it's narrow like this. If it's a wider ribbon, I might secure behind the ribbon with a glue dot, but when you're dealing with 1/8 inch, there's not a whole lot to play with there. So what I do is I take a little bit of Scotch tape. I don't really even need that much, but typically that's how much rips off my card, or rips off the tape dispenser. I attach it to my ribbon, and I'm just going to tuck one side behind, and then I stretch my ribbon across. And usually what I do is once I know it's straight on the front of the card, I flip the paper and hold it down with my finger, and then secure the other end, and I can kind of eyeball and see that it's lined up. And then I do a quick check because sometimes I don't do a good job of lining that up and it's crooked. And if I get to it in a hurry, I can fix it before too much damage is done. So I am just going to repeat that to secure these other 2 strands of ribbon. So if you prefer, or if you have a different way to secure your ribbon, please feel free to share and go for it. But I like to have that extra security of the ribbon there. And then I'm going to add 1 more strip to the bottom below that designer series paper strip that I added. My first version of this card, which I will show you in a minute, had less ribbon on it, and I felt like I had a little too much white space, so I decided to add a little bit of this beautiful metallic ribbon. It's kind of a subtle shimmer since it's so narrow, but it's a really beautiful ribbon, and we have these in each of the in colors. So, beautiful addition to your projects. All right, now once my ribbon is secure, and I did a pretty good job of lining that up. It does not happen often. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this on my card front. So I have my Stampin' Seal Plus, and I will admit I'm a little adhesive happy when I have panels like this that have the ribbon that interrupts the flow of the paper. I'm always afraid that it's going to pull off the card front. So I add a little bit extra. I don't normally go this crazy with adhesive, but I like to ensure my card panels stay where I want them to. So this just gets centered on the front of the card. Give that a nice press. And then, before I put my glue away, I have a panel that I created for the inside. I'm leaving this blank, so I just coordinated again with more strips of that designer series paper, and we'll add this to the inside of the card. I will admit that slim lines are not my favorite style of card. I'm more of a traditional card kind of girl with the 8.5 by 5.5 cut or folded in half, but slim lines are fun to break out every once in a while. Okay, to finish my card, 2 things. I have to pull in that thank you element. So I have die cut and layered the word thanks from our Amazing Dies set. It's a wonderful set of 6 dies that has the word thanks, you, and amazing. So you could do amazing you. You can do thank you because you can cut the S off, and you can use it with other stamp sets as well to mix and match. But I went ahead and layered these together. Adhesive sheets are your friend when you're trying to layer a more scripty word on top of the background piece. You're basically creating a sticker, which is a lot easier than trying to get fine tip glue on all these little nooks and crannies. So just a little tip for you there. I'm going to use mini dimensionals on the back of this die. I do like to spread them out and make sure I have pretty good coverage here. And these mini dimensionals sure beat trying to cut larger ones in half to fit. But once I've got enough coverage that my word will not sag in the middle, I just go ahead and peel off the dimensional backing. And then this will get put on the card. Dimensional backings are not my friend today. Whoop. One more. All right. So this I'm going to put on the card front. Right here. This die is the perfect width for this card, I do have to say. So there we go. Pulling all those elements in, and then just for a finishing touch, I'm going to add some of our new in color matte decorative dots. They do come in 5 colors. Your sweet sorbet's hidden up there at the top under the flap. But these are lovely because they're ombre shades of all our 5 in colors and are very handy to use on projects. So I'm just going to take my take your pick tool and add some of these different colors to the card, and I'm mixing and matching the Orchid Oasis and the Sweet Sorbet. Pardon me. And I'm going to add about 5. I usually do things in odd numbers when I'm putting my embellishments on the card. And let's see, I think we'll call that good. So there is my slimline card featuring in colors that unique sponging technique, which you might already know, but in case you didn't, it's a fun little technique that you have in your back pocket in case you want a different look to your card. Then I've got my thank you. So I have everything covered here. And I did make a few more samples to show you using all these elements, and a quick just glance at how different you can have your cards look each time you use that sponging technique. So I did all these. Each one is different. So just a neat technique to have. All right. So a couple more samples for you. This one, I am going to admit, I forgot the sponging one. I got so excited to get rolling with my samples, but I didn't really need it, and I didn't want to mess up the card once I had it together. So I have my large die cut with my dots and spots. This is a standalone die that we have, and gives you this lovely polka dot image. If you're really ambitious, you can save all your little dots for confetti and cards. I have my die cut sending with my note of thanks. Up here I just used a white panel to create a little flower garden, and then a strip of coordinating cardstock to cover up the seam in the middle. And then on the inside I just kept it simple with a floral image and went with my envelope stamps as well. Now I switched gears here for my next card and went with the in colors from 2021 to 2023, which were our Fresh Freesia, Evening Evergreen, Soft Succulent, Polished Pink, and Pale Papaya. So this is the Fresh Freesia, and what I did here was I cut a big panel of designer series paper from a 12 by 12 piece. I think part of the reason that slim lines aren't my favorite is because they're bigger, and if you only have DSP that's 6 by 6, it won't fill the card. So there are creative ways around that. But I cut a large panel here to fit the card front. I ran this piece through my stitched greenery die, which gave me this lovely stitching look, and then I cut it out with a circle from the Stylish Shapes, and then I added some Pool Party ink with a blending brush. So that was my sponge element, and then I added my thank you to this banner, which is also part of the Stylish Shapes die set. It's a very functional set, which I highly recommend. If you've got a cutting machine, you might want to have in your arsenal. Then I used some die cuts from coordinating paper from the Hues of Happiness suite. And there was my card front with a little bling added as well. And then again, keeping my inside very simple and adding the same little accent stamp to my envelope as well. Keeping in that color family, I have one in Pale Papaya, which features our perfectly penned designer series paper. Speaking of designer series paper, we have a brand new catalog out with lots of new designer series paper packs. You are welcome to check it out online at my website, or if you don't have a demonstrator that you're currently working with, I would be happy to send you a paper catalog if that's what you prefer. Just reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you. So here is my next card. This is Pale Papaya, and I was holding it up so you can see the beautiful accents here on our fabulous frames. There's a stitching detail here that I think might get swallowed up by that basic black cardstock, but it's there. And then these fabulous little photo corners. And so what I did for the sponging technique on this card was I took a sponge dauber and just added little dots of color here and there, not like polka dots, but just very gently swirled the color on the image where I wanted it. And then to carry the look forward with the photo corners, which are popped on dimensionals on the front, I simply cut another set and put them on the corners of the card inside. So there's a fun little card, and I colored my pearls here with my Stampin' Blends, our alcohol markers, because I didn't have pearls in Pale Papaya, but I wanted a little accent there on that tag. So, and these 3 tags are all, and the corners are from our new Fabulous Frames die set. And then last but not least, I have to jump back to our new in colors for 2022 to 2024, and I created this palm tree card. So what I did here was I took a panel of white and used Tahitian Tide and Parakeet Party. It's skewing a little more yellow because I went very light with it on this panel, but that is that green Parakeet Party, same here as the designer series paper I added to the ends. And then I cut palm trees from our palm dies in Orchid Oasis and Starry Sky and just placed them along the card front, added a little bling and my thank you, and I was ready to go. So I was rather tickled with how this card came out. It makes me want to go to the beach. And then I just stamped some palm trees on the inside and on my envelope to keep that palm tree theme going. So there is your quick technique, a little challenge card that features a fun, quick and easy sponging technique. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already and you'd like to learn more card techniques, feel free to subscribe to this channel. You can click the notification bell and be notified each time I go live with a new video. You can also follow me over on Facebook if you're interested in things like the challenge that led me to this card. I do those challenges over on Facebook, and you can catch me there as well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy crafting.